Should I rent or should I buy? This is $1 million question that is keeping up so many people every single night. And I get it. This is probably the biggest financial decision most of us will ever make in our lifetime. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, tied to a single decision. So we want to make the right decision, the best decision. Yet, how are the most advices we get? If I can be frank, most often, they're not that helpful. Our parents tell us buying is always better. Renting is throwing money away. Home ownership is how you build wealth. That is how we did it. But when we go online, some financial gurus are saying renting is a smarter move, and homeowners are all suckers. And just when you think you're close to a decision, you keep hearing conflicting information that keeps you confused more than ever. Housing prices are about to crash, or buy now before you're priced out forever. So what is the right advice? The honest truth? There is no one right advice. Why? Because we're all so different. We all have different circumstances. We all live in different parts of the world. And most importantly, we all have different desires when it comes to our housing preferences. Thus, a good decision, a smart decision, needs to incorporate all these elements. And that is what I want to help you with today. A simple but comprehensive rent or buy 5-step framework to cut through all the noise so you can make the best decision when it comes to your future home. And before we dive in, please note, this video has a lot of numbers, formulas, and rules of thumb. So I put together a free PDF that summarizes the entire 5-step framework. All the formulas, the benchmarks, the questions you need to ask yourself, it's all there. Grab it in the description below so you can follow along and actually use this after the video is over. Additionally, just in case you're new to the channel and we haven't met yet, my name is Tay from Financial Tortoise, where we learn to grow our wealth slow and steady. Step 1. Let's start with a simple rule to get started. A great starting point is a simple rule called the 5% rule. And this rule, I'm stealing from Ben Felix, a portfolio manager and the chief investment officer at PWL Capital, and he also happens to be a fellow personal finance YouTuber. And let me tell you, Ben is sharp. I'm pretty critical of many personal finance voices on social media, but Ben knows his stuff. But I have to admit, he does fall short in one category, and that is his hair. I know he is trying, but hey, let's be honest. After you've gotten used to admiring this greatest hairline on the internet, I mean, who even comes close, right? But enough about the hair. When it comes to financial analysis, I have to give it to the guy. The way he approaches financial decision with deep, rational analysis, he has my respect. So here's how the 5% rule works. It is very simple. Take the price of the home you're considering, multiply it by 5%, then divide by 12. That number, that's your break-even monthly rent. If you can rent a comparable home for less than that number, renting looks favorable. If rent is higher than that number, then buying looks favorable. Let's go through an example so you can better wrap your head around it. Say you're looking at a $500,000 home. $500,000 times 5% equals $25,000 per year. $25,000 divided by 12 equals about $2,100 per month. So based on this 5% rule, if you can rent a similar home for less than $2,100 a month, renting starts to look good. If comparable rent starts to cost more than $2,100, then buying starts to look better. Ben came up with this 5% rule based on what he calls the unrecoverable cost of home ownership. Essentially money that goes out the door and never comes back. But I want to be honest about one important caveat. Ben created this rule when mortgage rates were hovering around 3%. Today, with rates above 6%, some argue the rule should be closer to 7 or 8%. Regardless, I think it is a great simple rule and a great starting spot for analysis. If you want something that's closer to today's real estate market, you can use 7 to 8%, but to keep things simple and given that this is just step 1, I think 5% is just fine. Alright, let's refine our analysis more by moving to step number 2. Step 2 to making the best housing decision. Now that we have our baseline, let's check the price to rent ratio to have another data point. This one was popularized by economist Robert Shiller, the same guy who created the Case-Shiller index that the Federal Reserve uses to track housing markets. The formula is simple. Take the home price and divide by the annual rent. Let's stick with a home price at about $500,000, but let's say that comparable rentals in the area go for about $2,500 a month. First, convert that rent to annual. $2,500 times 12 equals $30,000 per year. Now divide. $500,000 divided by $30,000 equals roughly 16.7. That is your price to rent ratio. So what does this number actually tell you? Here's a general rule of thumb. Below 15, buying is likely the better deal. Home prices are relatively low compared to rent. 15 to 20, that's the gray zone. It can go either way depending on your situation. Above 20, renting likely makes more sense. Homes are expensive relative to what landlords are charging. So in our example, a ratio of 16.7 puts us right in the middle. Not a slam dunk either way. Now compare that to a city like San Francisco where the ratio can climb above 30, or certain parts of the Midwest where it might dip below 10. This is why blanket advice like always buy or always rent falls apart. The math changes dramatically depending on where you live. Now at this point with step 1 and step 2, you have data points which give you some sense which direction the numbers are leaning in your market. If your two numbers are pointing the same direction, great. That's a strong signal. If they're mixed, no problem. That's normal. It just means your situation needs more information, which is exactly what the next steps will provide. Step 3 to making the best housing decision. Assess your timeline. Essentially how long you plan to stay. And this is a key piece of information because it can dramatically change everything. Let me explain why. Transaction costs in real estate are massive. We're talking 2 to 5% of home price just to buy. Closing costs, inspections, appraisals, all those fees. And when you sell, another 7 to 10% walks out the door in agent commissions, transfer taxes, repairs to get the house ready. On a $500,000 home, that's $40,000 to $60,000 in transaction costs alone, round trip. That money has to come from somewhere. You need enough time for appreciation and equity building to overcome these costs. That's why the traditional rule of thumb has been 5 years. Research from Zillow and academic studies have shown that after about 5 years, home ownership typically breaks even with renting. Before 5 years, those transaction costs make renting the cheaper option. But here's what's changed recently. Recent research suggests the break-even point may now be close to 8 to 10 years if you're putting down 10%, and around 8 years with 20% down. Why the change? 1. Slower projected appreciation. We're seeing 2 to 4% growth instead of the double-digit appreciation we got used to in recent years. 2. Mortgage rates continue to remain high. And 3. Those transaction costs haven't gone anywhere. So here's a simple framework you can use as a guideline. Under 3 years, almost always rent. The math most often just doesn't work for buying. 3 to 7 years, this is a gray zone. You need to run numbers and think hard for your specific situation. Over 7 years, buying becomes more compelling. Over 10 years, buying usually wins. That is as long as you can afford it. Bottom line, the longer you stay in one place, the more buying tends to make sense. Step 4 to making the best housing decision. Now that we cover some high-level math, let's go a bit deeper, specifically into accounting for hidden costs. And to be honest, these are often variables that are missing from most rent-to-buy calculators. But we cannot skip them because some of these hidden variables can swing our decisions by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars at times. Let me share a few key ones you need to consider before making your decision. The first hidden cost, the opportunity cost. Let's say you put $100,000 in a house. That money is now sitting in your home equity instead of invested in the stock market. At 7% return, that's almost $7,000 per year in foregone gains. Over 10 years, that $100,000 could have grown to roughly $200,000 in the market. This is real money you're giving up. Most people don't think about it because they can't see it. But it's there, quietly not compounding in your walls instead of your portfolio. So on paper, renting and investing the difference wins. Case closed, right? But not so fast. According to a survey of consumer finances, the median homeowner has 40 times the household wealth of a renter. $250,000 versus $6,000. Why? Because home ownership forces financial discipline. Every mortgage payment automatically builds equity. You don't have to think about it. It just happens. Renters have to actively choose to invest the difference every single month for years. So here's the probing question. Do you trust yourself to actually invest the difference? If you have a track record of consistent investing, automated contributions, staying the course through volatility, then renting and investing may genuinely be the smarter play. But if that extra money tends to disappear and you keep finding yourself saying, I'll start next month, then buying may win by default simply because it forces you to build wealth. The second hidden cost, rent increases versus a fixed mortgage. Rent typically increases 3 to 5% annually. Some people are totally fine with these types of changes. They see it as the cost of just living. They can adapt with the changes in housing costs with relative ease, just like they adapt with changes in the cost of food. Other people, not so well. They can only sleep better when the big expenses are locked in. The idea of a landlord raising rent by 5%, that keeps them up at night. Thus, they love a fixed rate mortgage. The fact that their housing payment stays flat for 15 or 30 years, no matter what the housing market is doing. So here's the question you want to ask yourself. Are you someone who really craves financial predictability? Who really needs it? If knowing your housing payment is fixed brings you genuine peace of mind, that is worth something. The third hidden cost, maintenance reality. The 1% rule, setting aside 1% of your home value each year for maintenance, sounds reasonable on paper. But in my personal experience, it's often optimistic. One roof replacement, $10,000 to $25,000. One HVAC failure, $5,000 to $15,000. One foundation issue, I don't even want to think about it. These once every 15 to 20 year costs can blow multiple years of your maintenance budget in a single month. But it's not just the money, it's the time, it's the mental energy. When you own, you're the one researching contractors. You're the one getting 3 quotes for a new water heater. You're the one figuring out if that weird noise is a $50 fix or a $5,000 problem. You're the one taking a day off from work to let the plumber in. So here's the first probing question. How do you handle maintenance surprises? But here's a second, I say actually a bigger question. Do you even want to deal with this stuff? Some people genuinely enjoy it. I have friends that totally geek out on home maintenance stuff. They like troubleshooting. They like learning how their house works. For them, it's not a burden. It's part of the pride of home ownership. Other people, they want nothing to do with it. The idea of spending a Saturday researching HVAC system sounds like a nightmare. They'd rather pay rent and let someone else handle the headaches. Now, neither answer is wrong, but you need to know which person you are. Alright, so at this point, you got several solid data points. You have a general break-even point via the 5% rule. You know where your market falls in the price to rent spectrum. You know roughly how long you need to stay to come out ahead. And you've accounted for the hidden costs for both owning and renting. That's the financial picture. But a smart decision isn't just about the numbers, it's about your life. That's where the final step, step 5, comes in. Step 5 to making the best housing decision. Enough with numbers, let's get into more emotional things. Let's ask the non-financial questions. More specifically, the lifestyle questions. Because here's the thing, not everything in life can be reduced to a spreadsheet. And some of the most important factors in this decision have nothing to do with the numbers at all. Let me recommend a few major lifestyle questions you should ask yourself. The first lifestyle question, do you crave flexibility or stability? Renting gives you mobility. You can relocate for a job, a relationship, a lifestyle change with minimal friction. Sign a lease termination, pack your stuff and go. Selling a home? That takes months. It costs money. And it may happen at the worst possible time in the market. If you're settled, same city, same community, kids in schools that you love, then stability might be exactly what you want. The roots feel good, not restrictive. But if there's a part of you that isn't sure, if you're still exploring what you want your life to look like, then flexibility has real value. The second lifestyle question, where are you at in your career? Early in your career, job changes and relocations are more likely. You're still figuring things out. Maybe you'll pivot industries. Maybe you'll chase an opportunity across the country. Maybe the promotion you want is in a different city. Mid-careers, on the other hand, often brings more stability. Clearer trajectory. You know your industry, your earning potential, your path. So ask yourself, is my career still in motion or has it found its footing? If you're ambitious about climbing the ladder quickly, or if your industry is volatile, flexibility might be your most valuable asset. That dream job might require you to move in 18 months. Can you do that if you own a house? The third lifestyle question, my personal favorite. Does the idea of owning excite you or terrify you? This is where psychology meets lifestyle. And I think it's one of the most important questions of all that not enough people ask themselves. Some people light up at the thought of home ownership. They see a blank canvas. They want to knock down walls, build a garden, paint every room a different color. They want a place that's truly theirs, to shape, to customize, to make home. For them, ownership feels like freedom. Others feel their chest tighten. They see a burden. They think about the repairs, the yard work, the property taxes, the roots that tie them down. For them, ownership feels like a prison. Neither reaction is wrong, but you need to know which one is yours. Alright, we covered tons in this video, so let's put it all together so we can come to a decision. At this point, you've run the 5% rule, you check the price to rent ratio, you assess your timeline, you factored in hidden costs, and you ask yourself the big lifestyle questions. So now what? Here is a simple filter I use. If the math is close, within 10 to 15% either direction, let your lifestyle preferences break the tie. If the math strongly favors one option, you need a compelling personal reason to override it. Consider buying if you have a 7+ year timeline. Your local price to rent ratio is close to 15 or less. Your career and income are stable. You value stability and the ability to customize your space. And honestly, if you know you probably won't invest the difference anyways. Consider renting if your timeline is under 3 years. Your local price to rent ratio is well over 20. Your career is mobile and uncertain. You value flexibility. And you're genuinely disciplined about investing the savings. You're in the gray zone if your timeline is 3 to 7 years. Your price to rent ratio is between 15 and 20. You have mixed signals on the other factors. In the gray zone, there's no clear winner. Run the numbers for your situation and simply go with what feels right for your life right now. So-called experts will continue to throw around general statements such as it's a buyer's market, or wait for prices to drop, or lock in now before rates go higher based on current real estate market conditions and what they think the market is going to do in the near future. What should you do with this information? I say ignore most of it. The truth is that no one can reliably predict where the housing market is headed. Not the economists, not the real estate agents, not the talking heads on TV, and definitely not random people on the internet. What you can control is your own situation, your timeline, your finances, your life goals. That's what this framework is designed to help you evaluate. The right answer is one that fits your numbers, your life stage, and your honest assessment of who you are. And if you want all 5 steps on one page, the formulas, the benchmarks, the questions, please download the free PDF in the description below. It's completely free and it'll help you actually run through this for your specific situation. Thank you guys for watching the theme of making smarter decisions. If you want to learn more about priorities that are actually worth spending more money on, please check out my video here. Until next time, all the best.